Okay, we're finally on the last section. It's called independent and dependent probability. This is it. There's two templates. It won't take me too long to teach this. An independent and dependent is actually picking something, and then like you're picking something out of a bag, and you're not just picking one, you're going to go back in there and pick a second one, and then you're going to go back in there and pick a third one and a fourth one or a fifth one. We've never done this before. So let's start with this. You have 3 red, 4 green, and 8 yellow crayons. So how many crayons do we have all together? We have 15 crayons so far. 2 crayons are picked, one after another, and not replaced back into the bag. You're supposed to find the probability. So remember when we did probability, you only had 1 fraction bar? Since we are picking 2 crayons, you need to have 2 fraction bars. Because when we did probability, we only picked 1 thing. Now we're picking 2 things. So if we pick 2 green, well, we started off with 4 green out of 15. We started off with 4 out of 15, but you don't replace that green one back into the bag. If you don't replace it back into the bag, you're going to have 1 less crayon in the bag. But you want to still get another green one. You are holding on to one of the green ones. Don't you just have 3 left to decide to see if you can get it? You multiply across, which gives us 12 over, because 4 times 3 is 12, and 15 times 14 is 210. And I'll accept that on the test if you don't want to simplify it. But if you can simplify it, go ahead and simplify it. It's up to you if you want to simplify it. I'm going to simplify it. I'm going to do a quick little method that I learned. You're going to get 2/35 if you simplify it, and if you don't simplify it, it's going to be 12 over 210. Again, it's the same thing. You pick both are yellow crayons. Again, there are 15 to start with. There are 8 yellow. Okay, you're holding on to that yellow one, and you're going to go back into that bag. You're going to have 1 less than what you started with because you didn't put that one back into the bag. And now you're going to only have 7 chances of getting a yellow, and you're going to get 56 over 210, which is the same thing as 4/15. Okay, it's the same concept. I want to go to the next problem. 2 cards are picked out of a deck of cards, one after another, and replaced back into the deck of cards. Okay, look at the difference between replace back in and not replace back in. So pay attention to that when you do your homework today. You're picking 2 cards. If you're picking 2 cards, you need 2 slashes. If you're picking 3 cards, you need 3 slashes. If you're picking 4 cards, you need 4. Remember I told you that there are 13 clubs, and you can go back to probabilities and look at your deck of cards if you don't remember them. But there are 13 clubs and there are 52 cards. So you put 52, and you're trying to get clubs. Well, you put 13 up there because you have 13 out of 52. Okay, notice what the word says. You're going to replace that club back into the bag. If you replace it, don't you still have 52 cards? And don't you still have 13 clubs? And in simplified form, I'll tell you without simplifying it, it ends up being 169 over 2,704, but if you simplify it, it simplifies to 116. Do you see the difference? There's 2 types of problems. Replacing them back in and not replacing them back in. So let's do another one. Both are face cards. Instead of picking 2 cards, let's change this up. Let's pick 3 cards instead. for this problem. Let's pick 3. If you're picking 3, you need to have 3 spaces. That's the only difference. And you know that you have 52, 52, and 52. So you have 52 cards in a bag. What are your chances of picking a face card? If you remember, the face cards have to have a face on it. So the Jack, the Queen, and the King. And there's 4 suits. So there's 4 of them, and 4 of them, and 4 of them. So we have 12 face cards. So you're going to put a 12 right there because you want to get a face card out of 52. But you replace that card back in. Let's say you took a Jack. Once you looked at it, you have to put it back in. It's going to be 12 again out of 52. But you replaced it back in, it's going to be another 12 out of 52. And then you just multiply across. Let's do the same thing with this problem, except the word not replaced back in. So you're picking 2 cards. Notice that it says both are clubs and both are clubs. So it's almost an identical problem. You're going to put 52 here. There are 13 clubs, just like we did up above. But notice that we not replace. You do not put it back in. If you don't put it back in, you're still holding on to that club. You have 1 less than what you started with. And that's why it's a little bit different. So really pay attention to replace or not replace back in. If they tell you to choose 4 cards, you need 4 spaces. If they tell you to choose 2 marbles, you need 2 spaces. If they tell you to choose 3 things, you need 3 spaces. What you have to pay attention is if you replace them back in or not replace them back in. So really pay attention to that.